So here we have Hyper-V, and Hyper-V is basically Microsoft's hardware virtualization product, and this is where you can create virtual machines if you wish. And you might have heard of other virtualization products such as VMware and VirtualBox, but Hyper-V is kind of like Microsoft's, and it's kind of meant for Windows operating systems. So a virtual machine is essentially a virtual computer that has its own CPU, memory, and more based off a physical system. So for example, here we have my host operating system, and we will be creating a virtual machine, and both will be running on my desktop PC that is just under my desk here. So they'll both be using the same resources. So we'll just get into creating a virtual machine to show you guys what it looks like. So if you go here to the side here and click new virtual machine, there's a virtual machine wizard, and it's pretty simple steps. So just a name, location for your virtual machine, and then different generations. So this is basically just the kind of different features and support different things. So you can see here generation 2, supports for newer virtualization features, while generation 1 has 32-bit and 64-bit support. So we'll just use generation 1, and generation 1 probably will be better if you're working with older hardware and whatnot. Memory, so we'll just assign 4 gigabytes of RAM because that's good enough for a Windows operating system. And then we have different connection options here, or that you might have, which I'll go over afterwards. So we'll just go to external, make our disk 50 gigabytes, and then finish. So now we can see here we have our virtual machine. So we're just gonna go ahead and show off the settings. So here, just like any computer, you can change the boot order of what you want to boot first and last. The memory, the processor, you can change all these percentages. We have our hard drive, our DVD drive, and just like a real computer, this is where we can kind of put in our ISO file. So we'll go ahead and put in a server 2019 ISO. And so network adapter, there's going to be 3 main types, which I'll show in the virtual switch manager: external, private, and internal. And then you also have other things here as well, such as the name, different services for the machine and whatnot. And you can also create checkpoints, which is kind of like a save point for your machine. If anything ever gets messed up, you can fall back on it. So we'll just go ahead and do that. And so now if anything ever gets ruined, or we need to go back to a different state or time, or like a save, we can just go back to this and apply this checkpoint. So next I want to show the virtual switch manager. So here we have external network, which basically kind of connects the virtual external NIC to our host virtual, or our host NIC, which is kind of what allows us to connect to the internet. As you can see here, it uses my network adapter that I have here. It's kind of connected to that, and that's what will allow the VMs to have internet access. And then internal just means that it can connect to other VMs, but it will not have internet access. But you can select static IPs and stuff like that. And internal can also communicate with the host, which is this operating system back here, just not the internet. And then intern or private, sorry, like we see here. It's only VM to VM communication. Um, so yeah, that's that. So we attached our ISO, and now once I start and connect to the VM, you'll see that it's basically just like a normal computer. It's like a computer in a computer. Um, and so you're gonna see a normal Windows installation process here. Um, so this is probably a good representation of what a VM is. You just have a computer inside of another computer. So we'll just go ahead and just demo this and I guess show what it's like. Just gonna be like a normal computer. And so some things I want to talk about is why would you want a VM? So one reason would be is you can have multiple operating systems on the same PC. So I can also have Linux operating systems, on a Windows PC. Um, this can save physical space because I can have multiple VMs all running on one computer if I have the resources for that. And it's kind of like a safe and secure environment where I can test things or protect things in this little VM. But it also has some downsides, and some of those would be, let's see if I can go into the task manager and see. So like right now, obviously we're not doing much resource intensive things, but this virtual machine is using the resources off of my host. So it could lower the performance, if I have multiple operating systems running and whatnot. And, if something happens to the host, then this VM's kind of gone. I can't access it or anything like that. And we also have something called nested virtualization, which is essentially running a VM inside of a VM. And so this is a command you want to use to enable that, and you want to just change your VM name here to whichever VM you have. So another thing you might need for nested virtualization is a proper CPU. Intel probably, because AMD has some issues with that. So I'm just gonna fast forward to when this is created and whenever the installation of my machine is done. So we can see now that we're just going through the normal setup of how a Windows machine normally would be. And you might just get this sometimes to kind of specify your display settings. It's not really a big deal. So yeah, now we're just gonna log in as usual. So now when we make a full screen, it's basically like, any other computer. It might just be a bit slower. Um, you could always give it more resources or something like that. Um, but yeah, everything else is here, and because we assigned the external network adapter, we can see here that we have internet connectivity. So if I go to Internet Explorer, I can go to Google, for example. Oh, oops. Yeah, well, yeah, anyways, you can see here Bing is working. Our license down here has been activated, and I have Server Manager here, and everything else works as normally. And to install Hyper-V, you would simply just go to the roles and features, or add roles and features, and we can see right here we can add Hyper-V if in the event that it's not installed, or we want to install it on this machine. We can go ahead and do that just from there. I think that's pretty much everything. Um, yeah, so there's a lot of different things. Once again, or like I said, you can also make hard disks um, that you can connect to virtual machines to. We got a lot of different kinds, like dynamically expanding, fixed, differentiating. Um, so a lot of things there. You can inspect your disks. Showed you this. Import virtual machines from elsewhere that you already may have. And you kind of have a nice overview here of what the state is, the CPU usage, the assigned memory, uptime, status, and all that. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much it. I feel like I've covered kind of the basics, or as much as you need to know. And thank you for watching.